We're good? Okay, I think we're live now. Brian just sent me a text, said that feedback is coming from council chambers, so is it like an echo, Brian, or what kind of feedback are you getting?
That's robot talking. But it got better there for a little while right towards the end and just got worse again a couple of minutes ago.
Okay, well, if that's something that Bryce can work on while we're trying to conduct this meeting, we'll see what we can do to keep it down to a minimum. So we'll call a meeting to order. You have agenda in front of you. We're going to add a couple of items. Under 8.5, we will have a little discussion on local state of emergency. 8.6, council outside committees. And is there anybody that has anything else they'd like to add into the agenda? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve.
Murray can accept the agenda as presented.
Thanks, Murray. All in favor? And like, I think rather than saying those opposed, let's just, as council, we'll just start with John, Jennifer, Brian, Murray, Levitt, and Tamara. We'll just say in favor, please. Go ahead.
I'm in favor.
Jennifer? Or is it going to be easy?
In favor.
Okay. Would it be easier to say, nobody's saying they're opposed, so I'm going to accept that as everyone's in favor of the agenda as presented. Protocol items, I don't know. I just want staff to know that we recognize the efforts that you're doing to distance yourself and work from home and do everything you can to keep the municipality going from home. Grateful that everybody's willing to do their part to keep the spread of this virus down and do their best to keep the municipality moving forward. So thank you, everybody. Next is our minutes from March 10th. Anybody have any corrections or amendments? None. So we need somebody. John gives a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll move the minutes.
Okay. Again, is it easiest just to say anybody opposed? I'm too close? Okay. It's when I'm too close. Okay. Okay, sounds good. Anybody opposed to the minutes being approved? All right, we'll take that as all in favor. Anybody out there in the public that would like? Okay, I just got a couple more text messages here. One is to remind everybody to mute their phone unless they're speaking, and the other one is Brian's going to drop off and call back in just a second. He's having a hard time hearing. Anybody in the public domain that wants to address council? Okay. Nobody out there? Anybody have any need to declare any kind of conflict with anything that's on the agenda today? If not, Levitt's saying it's very choppy and hard to understand, and Murray can't hear. Okay, we're having a hard time here. I'm not sure what we can do. Bryce just told me to not be so close to the mic, and some people are saying they can't hear me. Pardon me? Again, remind everybody to mute your phone. That seemed to have helped yesterday. Is anybody other than Murray and Levitt and Brian having a hard time hearing what's going on? It's awfully quiet out there.
It's a little better now. I don't know if you can hear me clear, but it's a little better now. But before it was just garble.
Okay. We hear you good, Levitt, but Murray said he couldn't hear, and Brian said he was having a hard time. He was going to drop out and then call back in. So we'll just kind of pause here for just a
You can hear
second.
you better right now, Merle.
Okay, so we're getting better?
I can hear you better now, Merle.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Thank you.
Brian, are you back on yet? Okay. What's that? Yeah. Okay. Brian, are you there again?
Yeah, this is better. I use my home phone.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll just have to remind everybody one more time to mute your phone if you're not speaking, because we're getting a little bit of feedback here ourselves. All right. So we're down to the consent agenda. Is there anything anybody would like to bring out of there to have a discussion on later? If not, do we have any questions for Arlos on his report?
I had one question or comment on I believe the road ban policy is in the consent agenda. Is that right? My question is, maybe we should be circulating this to some of the users of our exemption policy, if that's what you want to call it, and allow them to have a look at it and see how it functions before we pass it or use it, just to ensure we're not missing anything, because lots of times when you go to implementation and you've missed something. So I don't think there's a panic for it. We already have a policy in place. So I was just wondering if we shouldn't try and circulate this. And no one would have to, of course, through this social distancing and personal distancing, no one would have to come in and talk about it. Just they would have the opportunity to look through it and just go through some scenarios that we might not have thought of, whether that be the agriculture industry with feedlots, seed companies or seed farms, seed cleaning plants, intensive agriculture, whether that be dairy or poultry, or there's a multitude of them that use this, and there'd be different scenarios that we might not have thought of. I thought that might be a good idea.
Carlos, any thoughts?
So this is not in the consent agenda, so we can discuss it when it comes up in the regular agenda. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yep. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay, Jennifer said it sounds really good now. Okay. Any other questions for any of the department heads? Brian, I have a question regarding property tax levied. It's on page 9. Total of tax arrears outstanding on February 29th are 2.560 million. Can you just explain a little bit more where we're at and how much you think is unrecoverable at this point in time?
Hi, it's Brian here. If you can't hear me, can you hear me okay, Merrill?
Yeah, we're doing good here.
Okay, so the information there really hasn't changed since December 31st. We've collected a small amount of taxes, just a very small amount of the non-residential, which makes up the majority of the uncollectible. Go forward from here, I'm just speculating that it's going to be more difficult to collect these arrears taxes. When we do levy, we are intending to, when we levy the taxes for 2020, the collections there again are just a shot in the dark. When November comes, what the collections will be like as well.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions out of Arlos's report? Go ahead, Tamara.
So, Mayor, today is not the day, but I would like us, whether it's at policy or somewhere, to discuss the format. A lot of effort goes into the report, and I appreciate the opportunity to read and ask questions, but I think it would be prudent to review an opportunity for our CAO to highlight some of the items, and not today. I'm just wondering if we could review the format, because we went from one extreme to another, and I often feel we might be missing something. And just because I don't recognize it as a question, maybe there's something that's a highlight. So I was just wondering if in the future we could review the agenda process one more time.
Yep, we can do that, but we can ask Arlos, is there anything you want to highlight out of your report that is something you think that beyond what's written on the page we should be given to understand where the MD's at?
With regard to a particular highlight for this report, I would say nothing striking. However, I do want to clarify what is being asked in terms of, are you looking at agenda creation or are you looking at report format?
So I really do appreciate the report. I would just wonder if you would like to verbally speak to some of the highlights. And, you know, again, these are different times that we're in, but in the future, an opportunity, and perhaps no one else on council feels that way, but I sometimes look at it and think a lot of work's gone into it. There's a lot of information, and it's not that we're gleaming over it. Everyone's read it. Everyone has the opportunity to ask questions, but I think it doesn't hurt us to take a moment of time to make sure we're all on the same page as the MD and give you that opportunity if desired.
Fair enough. We can look at that moving forward. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'll move down to Craig. So Craig, you can answer this question. The Township 8 Range 16 project, we're still waiting for Water Act approval, or have we got that and ready to put it out to tender?
Hey, good morning. So all of the information for the notification period has been sent back to Alberta Environment Park. Once they receive the hard copies of that, we will be notified of their decision. At this point, we don't anticipate any appeals in the process. Once we do get notification of the decision, we plan to put it to tender immediately.
Okay. And just looking a little farther down your report, Range Road 16-5 south of 13-0, that's going to soil cement. That's the one that's going into the campground, correct? The King Arthur's Resort campground?
Yes, that's correct. That's the 1 mile south of the paved road.
Yeah.
And in that same contract, we plan to do some single chip seal on Township Road 13-1A. We are aiming to have that advertised for public tender the week of April 12th.
Okay, sounds good. John?
Craig, you broke up there part during your conversation on 816. I was just wondering if Environment has given you any indication if they received any, I guess, opposition to the project.
I have had some correspondence with AEP. They have heard nothing at this point, nor have we. We did get a couple phone calls, explain the project, and the people were happy with what was going on there. I don't anticipate any appeals at this process, so we've submitted it to them digitally as well as mailed it to them as that's a requirement. Once they receive that, we will get notification of their decision, which at that point will put it immediately to public tender.
So, Craig, has the time frame been met? There was a certain time frame that after they received the registered mail, there was a time frame that they had a chance to appeal. Is that time frame since passed and the chance to appeal been exhausted?
Yes, it has. Yeah. I believe the last piece of mail was delivered on March 6th, which then cues a 7-day period for them to appeal, which has passed. I am unaware of any appeals that have been pushed forward to AEP.
Thank you.
Cameron?
On the King Arthur Road, I just had one call of a farmer who was concerned about the potential of being landlocked on road bounds. So, and I didn't have a chance to have a look at it. Do you feel it's okay for someone who has potentially shipping that they will be able to get their product out? Not on a hard surface?
Yeah, I believe I've spoke to that same landowner, same egg producer in that area, and the road from their main storage there, they can run north of, which will maintain a gravel road. These roads, both the asphalt road as well as the future soil cement chip seal on Range Road 16.5 will be seasonally banned. With that, we do have some exemptions and permit processes that we can go through to protect our infrastructure as well as allow industry to get what they need done.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions in Arlos's report from any council members? Okay, hearing none, we'll move down into the check run batches. Any questions in there that anybody has that they'd like questions answered? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the operating financial statement. Brian, you want to walk us through that one?
Hi, if I'm a little too loud, just let me know, Merrill.
Okay, so far so good.
Okay. So the operating financial statement to the end of February 2020 compared to February 2019, there isn't a whole lot that I want to highlight. The the end of February surplus is approximately about $500,000 lower than the previous year. We did have the start of a lot of snow clearing that was going on during that time, and as far as any highlights with any departments, I don't have any to make unless there's any questions for me.
Anybody have any questions for Brian? If not, we'll go on down to your capital transaction report.
Okay, and on the capital transaction report, we've got just a few purchases that have been done so far in public works and equipment, as well as Ag Service Board, and a small amount for parks. So we're just getting started in our capital purchasing for the year.
All right. Bank reconciliation. It's in front of you.
Okay, so the bank reconciliation up to February 29th, I guess. It's a leap year this year. At the beginning of the month, we had just over 21,644,786 in the bank. Receipts of 1,326,000 and disbursements of 1,221,000, and that leaves a balance of 21,749,866. So we haven't seen much. How do I put it? Cash flow as far as capital leaving the bank account, and here at the end of March, the big expenditure for the first quarter requisition will be coming out. It's about 1.3 million, and so we'll see a little more draw of the cash in March.
That's school board requisition?
Yeah, that's correct. So the provincial school requisition amounts, we pay a small amount to the Holy Spirit Separate School, as well as a larger amount each quarter to the provincial government for the school requisition.
Okay. And maybe this question's too premature because we don't know all the details with what we've been hearing from the government on non-residential and the education portion. Do you see any problems coming at us in the next while with regard to those sort of things, or is that just too early to say, Brian? With what the government wants to do with non-residential? Go ahead.
Yeah, I haven't heard too much with what they want to do with. Sorry, Meryl. I haven't heard too much with what they're going to do with non-residential. We did hear a little bit that they're going to possibly roll back the requisition for 2020 back to the same amount it was in 2019. So we're just waiting for confirmation and that information to come back to us.
Okay. Do you see any problems making it to our next tax deadline with the amount of money we've got in the bank right now? We're going to be good. We're not going to have to be borrowing money or anything like that.
Unless we have some unforeseen expenditures come forward, we did plan to have enough money to meet the current year in cash. So the 21 million you're seeing there on the bank reconciliation, that was intended to be more than enough to make it to the collection date of November 15th. And like I said, unless there's some unforeseen expenditures, it should be enough.
Okay. Anybody have any more questions for Brian on the financial statements or the bank reconciliation? Okay, the last one, council earnings summary, February. Any questions? If not, is any, I'll throw it out there, any director have any questions or anything that they'd like to let council know out of your reports? If not, I guess we need a motion to approve the consent agenda. So moved by Tamara, and again, let's try this. I'd really like to hear people say in favor, so let's go around the table. We'll start. John?
I'm in favor.
Jennifer?
In favor.
Brian?
In favor.
Murray?
In favor.
Levitt?
In favor.
Tamara?
In favor.
Okay, I'm in favor also. So there, we're done the consent agenda. Next item is correspondence from the Minister of Health, just a letter back. We had sent a letter talking about the review of the helicopter EMS, and this is just a letter back explaining what they're doing with that helicopter EMS review. Any questions on that letter? If not, I would need a motion to accept for information. Oh, it's all in this consent? Okay, we don't then. All right, I guess we're getting a little ahead of myself, aren't I? All right, down into upcoming meetings and events. Policy Committee, I think, Arlos, you wanted to speak on that real quick.
Yeah, the thought was just at this point in time, given current circumstances, would be to carry on with our essential council meetings and any other kind of normal business type committees, i.e. SDA, ASB. Kind of try and do what we can at this point in time to carry on with those three primary council meetings and committee meetings, and hopefully, if we could, postpone the upcoming policy committee meeting.
Okay. Thoughts around the table? Anybody have any thoughts on that? I know that when staff is all kind of spread out, it's probably hard for you guys to get some of that formalized that we'd asked for. Is that fair?
Logistically, it's just a little slower, yeah.
Also a discussion on, have we canceled the annual meeting, or we need to talk about that today?
That's on the docket for discussion, yeah.
Thoughts, anybody thoughts on holding it, canceling it?
This is Jennifer. I would be in favor of postponing our AGM at this time and then continuing with the essential meetings of council, like council and SBA for the time being. I feel that waiting for the policy, if we're able to actually meet in person, that would be easier, as there's a lot of discussion with that meeting.
Anybody else have any thoughts? John?
I guess my only thought would, I don't know how much work this would be, but to do a virtual AGM if that was possible. And I don't know that it's that necessary. Maybe the only necessary part would be the financials, and I think we're going to be discussing that later as well, are we not?
Yep.
As the audit?
So through the chair, the audit it'll come through your regular council meeting, and we typically post those on the financial statements are posted on the website anyway, so it will be absolutely accessible.
Anybody else have any thoughts on, oh, go ahead, John.
Just wondering if it's a legislative requirement to have an AGM.
As far as I understand, no.
It's just one that we've been doing, but it's not a requirement. Anybody else have any thoughts on canceling the AGM for this year, or postponing at least for, and I don't indefinitely at this point in time, but all right. I know that most other committees that I'm part of have been canceled. Highway 3 annual general meeting was canceled this morning. Tamara, did you want to talk about other outside committees at this point in time, or?
Well, if this is acceptable, I just think we should maybe give everyone a quick update. So for Tabor and District Adult Learning, all of their programs have been suspended, and they are working from home, and then we'll reassess for April 30th. They are working hard, though, to continue with the messaging to all of their clients and still to provide supports, because there's a major concern of their well-being, and again, social isolation. The government has acknowledged that. Tabor and District Housing, again, people are working remotely. They're trying to limit access into Clearview Lodge. They're managing staffing at this point, but of course, just like every other agency in Alberta, concerned how that will go forward. Libraries in Alberta are closed based on Public Library Service Branch, and the handy bus, as of yesterday, is ceased operation. So that really does change some things. Those are the committees that I felt that you should be aware of, because it does have changes to our community. And at a local level, not on a MD committee, is the food bank is still providing hampers, and it has ramped up, but they are doing a call-in or a drop-off on the door. So, it really is changing our community, and there may be a call to the municipalities for some assistance. they have sent a letter. It's not on this agenda, but we may need to address that next meeting. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything on meetings or committee meetings that we need to discuss before we move on? I said most of mine outside committees have all been canceled. I don't know about anybody else. I would assume most everybody else.
This is Murray. All of the committee meetings I've been on to have been canceled, so just an update on that. Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one. Range Road 18-2 rebuild.
Can I get a motion to
Oh,
accept that for
you
information?
betcha.
And
We
are
can-
we postponing the policy committee meeting as well then?
Okay, I think Jennifer, I don't know that that was a motion, but she was encouraging if anybody wants to make a motion one way or the other.
I could make a motion to postpone policy meeting until a date set by council.
And the annual general meeting.
Can I include those in the same one?
Yep.
Okay, then I will add the EGM to a later date. And, yeah,
Okay. Again,
and I'm in favor.
okay, we've got you down here. John,
In favor.
Jennifer Bryan,
In favor.
Murray,
In favor?
Levitt,
In favor.
Tamara. Nods, gives a nod, and I'm in favor. Carried. All right, now we'll move on to Range Road 18-2 rebuild. Carlos or Craig or?
Yes, I can defer.
I can take this one.
Okay.
Okay. So everyone can hear me okay?
Yep, we're doing good here.
Range Road 18-2. Good. Range Road 18-2 is a approved capital project from council. We have opened the tenders on February 18th, and we received 10 bids that had quite the range to them, from just under $1 million down to a little over $250,000. With that, we have awarded the contract and signed and sealed the contract documents to award the job to the low bid, which is well within our budget. This project is to be completed prior to the end of October 2020. It is a project with transportation through the STIP program, Resource Road Program. So on this project, we be spending 50 cent dollars from the MD and 50 cent dollars from Alberta Transportation. I've done numerous projects with the low bid contractor, not at the MD of Tabor, but prior to my employment here. The contractor does quality work. I believe there's very little risk involved with this project and this contract. So it's a memo for council information.
So you don't need a motion then, or you don't need a motion?
To receive for information.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to,
This is Murray. I'll accept it for information.
Okay, sounds good. Murray, thank you, and you're probably in favor, so we'll go around the table again. John?
in favor.
Jennifer?
In favor.
Brian?
In favor.
Murray? Dunn Levitt?
In favor?
In favor.
Tamara? In favor, and Merrill's in favor. Carried. All right. Now we're down to the road ban policy memo. John has spoken a little earlier, wanting to know if we can put it out to those that actually use the roads during road ban periods and see if the policy makes sense to them and is workable from their side. Any thoughts on that?
So just as a precursor, just introduction to the actual agenda item, it's my understanding this was brought at the last council meeting. And as such, Stu is bringing it back with an amended form. Once I'm done speaking, I can have Stu speak to that. I do think Stu also wanted to speak to kind of some upcoming road bans because it is that season, so he can speak to that as well. So I will pass this opportunity now to Stu to expand.
Okay, morning council. Everything's kind of choppy in my end. Didn't you understand me?
No, it's really choppy.
Okay. Can't understand what I'm saying. It's kind of not worthwhile. Oh, there. Is it better now?
That's better, yep.
Okay. So we talked about this at the policy meeting. I brought it forward then. At that time, I wasn't aware of the exemption permit. So some of the feedback from the policy meeting was to try to make the exemption permit a little bit more user-friendly. So I went through it with some of the suggestions that came up at policy meeting, and I feel like we made it a little bit more user-friendly. I think the policy itself is in good shape. We didn't really need to make any changes there, just the form. And my recommendation with it is that we go live with it and take feedback as we're using it, and then we can adjust and change it and try to update the form and make it as user-friendly as possible going forward.
Go ahead, John.
As a suggestion, when we do roll it out, maybe then asking for feedback on how easy it is to implement or use might be a good suggestion, so that people know that we're not fixed on the process, so that we could amend the process should we need to.
Yeah, no, and that's definitely something that we can do. Like the list of commodities and whatever, that's all in the policy, so that we won't open up at this time. But definitely on the form itself, if people don't have the information or want to make changes, I'd definitely be open to that. As far as contacting everybody and getting the form out ahead of time, I'd just as soon have them fill out the form as per usual, and then we can, because of the email and the way things are sent, it does open the door for feedback. But again, I'm open to for suggestion as well.
Okay, that sounds good to get it in, start using it, and then if there needs to be some adjustments later, we can make some adjustments later. So, what are your thoughts about road bans there, Stu?
So I sent Arliss an email yesterday. I am recommending that we place road bans on next Monday. It'll be 90% on all gravels and 75% on the hard surface roads. And then we'll just kind of watch the forecast. It looks like it's supposed to warm up nicely at the end of this week and into next week. But I think next Monday will be the day to put them on.
Okay. Anybody have any thoughts or any comments on the proposed implementation of road bans for this spring?
I guess my only comment, to the exemption permit request is actually getting if someone sends emailed on the weekend to have it responded if that's able to happen or not. So there will be no response on the weekend. However, if people they put in their forms or their notification that they're activating their permit, I guess my goal here is that the people that will require the permit will apply for it up front, and then as they require the use of the permit, they would just email the road bands at MD Tabor email address just to notify us of their intention. And then we can always chase back the permit numbers, and that availability will be there. As far as processing permits on the weekends, we won't have availability to do that.
John?
I just have a question on when you say, Stu, when you say the road bands may be on next Monday, is that only on hard surface, or will it also include 75% on gravel as well?
So the gravels will go down to 90, and the hard surfaces will be at 75. And that's kind of my plan for Monday.
Did you
Thank
have
you.
one question, Tamara?
So I just, when I first came on council, we were involved in the decision-making. We've evolved the policy. I do think it's nice, though, if we can get notification of the road bans going on. And this is satisfactory for me for Monday. I don't need anything else. But if something was to change, then it's just nice for us to get a quick email.
Merrill, I do have one comment or concern, I guess, in listening to Stu's report, and that is that nothing can be done through the weekend. I think as we get into full-bore farming here, it's imperative that we try to be able to be as flexible as we can with these through the weekends.
And again, as far as weekend work goes, processing new permits, we won't have any staff available to process new permits on the weekends. But if people are proactive and get their permits ahead of time, then all they have to do is send an email to that road band's email and just notify us that they are enacting their permit, and their permit will have a number on it. And just basically let us know what their intention is, and they'll be able to go ahead as per the agreement that was on the exemption form.
Go ahead, John.
So maybe when we roll this out, maybe we should be encouraging anyone that might be needing a permit to get them ahead of time, so that should it be on a weekend when they need to implement it, they can do that. And maybe just a really good explanation, maybe on our website and social media, on how this process is going to work, because we're changing it, and change is always a challenge for people. So I think that would be a good way of doing it, as long as we give people the information and give them lots of different avenues to receive it. There should be no reason for people not to be able to get their permits on the weekends.
Yeah,
And that was definitely my intention to go. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Stu.
Yeah, it was definitely my intention to go out on social media, and I do have an email list. It's a little bit old, but just to notify people that these bans are going to be coming on. And the other thing we're going to use this time too as well is our SCAR notification. And actually going forward, I would like to use that as use SCAR as one of our main notification tools for the road ban. This year, obviously, we'll do everything so that we can get our message out as broad as we can. But I think SCAR is a good avenue for this.
Go ahead, John.
Is there a way of using the commodity groups as a send it to them so they can forward it to their producers, whether that be beet growers, potato growers, those different organizations?
I see no reason why we can't contact a few of those organizations. I don't want to say that we're going to get in touch with everybody, though, but we could definitely hit a few of the big ones.
Yeah, I think as long as we give everybody adequate notice and make the permitting process available during the weekdays, and like I said, if you just activate it the way you've explained it for weekends, it should work. It's just a matter of getting everybody aware of that's the process going forward. Any other comments on that at all? Anybody?
I would just like to say I like the policy. I think it'll work, and I think it'll be implemented quite nicely. Thanks, Stu.
Okay, so we need a motion then to accept this for information, and it'll be implemented the way it's been explained to us.
I'll
make that motion.
Yeah, unless, is there more direction anybody wants to give on this, or are we good with the way it's been explained?
So don't we need to pass the policy, not just accept for information? I just want to make sure I understand.
Sorry, the policy has not changed. It's just the form that was updated.
Any further comments out there? If not, we need a motion to accept for information. Did you do that, Jen?
I did, but Levitt also spoke at the same time, so either is fine.
Okay. All in favor, John?
I'm in favor.
Jennifer?
In favor.
Brian?
In favor.
Murray?
In favor.
Levitt?
In favor.
Tamara? She's got her hand up. In favor. Merrill's in favor. Carried. Okay, Town of Tabor Arts and Heritage Committee. They're asking for one member of MD Council, and in their bylaw, in the bylaw, it says someone on this side of the on the south side of the river. And again, as I explained, I think at our last policy committee, it was they were just cutting and pasting the way their bylaw reads, that it's someone on the south side of the river. So we need to appoint somebody if we want to have a representation on that committee. So I would entertain a motion to appoint somebody on the south side of the river. And if it's okay, I would nominate Tamara, if it's okay that I do it. Any other nominations? If not, Tamara's been nominated to represent the MD on the Town of Tabor Arts and Heritage Committee. We'll go around the room again. John, in favor, opposed?
In favor.
Jennifer?
In favor.
Brian?
In favor.
Murray?
In favor.
Levitt?
In favor.
And Tamara's accepted the nomination, so she's in favor, I'm in favor, so that's carried. All right. Next, just we need to have a little discussion on state of local emergency. Brian asked that be added this morning, so Brian, I'll let you start the discussion. Brian Bruin, are you there?
Sorry, Merrill, I'm having a hard time hearing.
Okay.
Yeah, just pros and cons of state of emergency. Arlos, when do you think we might be wanting to, just some basic guidelines, I guess, pros and cons.
Up to this point, we have, as we've communicated to the public, we've initiated our Emergency Coordination Center or Emergency Operations Center in an effort to support the provincial response. So far, we've been able to do that with existing resources that we have in terms of disseminating information and supporting anything that's been asked of us to support the overall response. With regard to the purpose of consideration of a state of local emergency, at this point, I don't know if we need the powers that are granted the municipality by doing that. especially given that the province is currently under a state of public health emergency. There is some duplication with those powers. So I guess to your question, things are changing so rapidly on a day-to-day basis. I'm going to say that it'll depend on how or at what point it affects our municipality. I do believe that the next agenda item is a key piece that we can handle through regular business, i.e. dealing with our recreation and open spaces moving forward. And that will help with regard to supporting the provincial response as well. But I'm not quite sure. And Brian Schaefer can speak to this as well as our Director of Emergency Management. I'm not quite sure we're, as of this moment, ready to declare a state of local emergency.
Yeah, look, the reason I'm asking is we've had some group gatherings. Is there any authority we can to control these group gatherings without doing this?
So already in place, and actually, as mentioned, the next agenda item will help with this in terms of the opportunity to close recreation areas where potential gathering is taking place, and your current open spaces and recreation bylaw prohibits people. So from an enforcement perspective, we could address it. Prohibits people from being in those areas when the park is closed, when those parks and recreation areas are closed. So you do have the mechanism as it stands now to deal with it.
That will help us in our parks, but if it was a home party or anywhere else besides a park, it would not help us, correct?
Correct, but I would definitely rely upon other first responders to deal with that under the auspice of the existing public health emergency. But if council wants to go down the road of declaring a state of local emergency, then any action we take we need to be responsible for moving forward.
I think the Premier spoke to that the public health state of emergency would supersede municipalities anyways, so I have been watching and wondering about that too, but I feel so far we're just following their guidelines.
Brian, a lot of the municipalities that have declared state of local emergency, not all, but many of them do have their own police forces. Many of them do have enforcement services that have capacity to better respond to perhaps what you're suggesting or alluding to. Be it just at this point in time, things could change. Things can change, and things are changing rapidly. But
Right.
Trying to look at the pros and cons, and with some of the current situations we're dealing with now, if it would be proactive or not.
what's he asking?
Yeah.
So Brian, as an EOC, we can look at the pros and cons and then provide council with a report or update.
Brian Schaefer, any comments from your looking at it from your perspective?
Right now, like Artis said, we are following the direction of the province, monitoring the situation. Every day, provide them updates. We're watching the live stream that's going on with Premier and with the Chief Medical Officer, and we're communicating that within our EOC, as well as in communication with FCSS, with some other planning on the side. So right now, state of local emergency. What some of the other municipalities have done is, the reason they have done it is to stop grocery hoarding and price gouging. So if we were to activate an EOC, the first question you're going to ask is, what part of the legislation are you going to get the power for? So again, like Artis said, we can talk about that at our next briefing tomorrow morning and provide back some information and some recommendations. But at this time, I think how we have it, just with the the EOC is monitoring. We're doing our due diligence and following what the province has asked us to do.
Tamara.
Thank you, Chief Schaefer. On that, I was wondering about the EOC, and I don't know if this is the right time to ask. Reeve Harris, are you attending or on that conference call? I just was wondering sort of the status of the EOC and the MD of Tabor.
I haven't participated in any conference calls since Friday, so I've just been listening like everybody else has.
So quite candidly, the CIO has been updating council on a very regular basis, and has been including those EOC updates with regard to roles and responsibilities. And I know this probably wasn't the scenario in the past, but typically elected officials are not in emergency operations centers, and it falls upon the role of somebody, in this case the CIO, to be updating council on a regular basis as to what's happening in the EOC. And the response to the emergency. And I feel that has been happening on a rather regular basis. So,
I think as we move forward, we'll just have to keep monitoring and what's going on provincially and what's starting to happen within our own municipality. If we were suddenly to get a huge number of cases, I think that would change things here. But until that happens, I guess we'll just keep monitoring what the province is doing, and Chief Schaefer and Arlos will keep us up to date as to what's happening, and when that is time for that decision to be made, we'll all be brought back together, another conference call to discuss it. But I think at this point in time, it might be a little premature to declare a state of local emergency, but it certainly could change in a hurry where we need to do it. Any further comments, Brian or any other Brian that's out there that wants to comment?
Sorry, I missed 3/4 of the because it was very garbly.
Can you say that one again, Brian? That was kind of choppy.
Yes, I missed most of what you had said. You were quite choppy and Natalie as well.
Anybody want to translate? That was pretty choppy again. We didn't really understand what you had to say, but I think I caught that you thought we're a little premature yet to call a state of local emergency.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments?
I just got a comment on Mike Digestion. I got a comment, I guess, on them, just the mass gathering restrictions and such. I think we need to reiterate what's on the Alberta website on what they're allowing and what they're not, because I think in the community, I think there is a little confusion of what is allowed and what isn't, to a degree. Like it's saying anything less than 50 people can still go ahead, but at the same time, there's restrictions with even if that in there, if there's people at higher risk or if they've traveled out of province or out of country, I mean. So I think we need to reiterate what's on the mass gathering restrictions that's on the Alberta website when it comes to recreation and entertainment and such as well. So I think that would help clarify some gatherings as well.
I appreciate Councillor Haug's input there, and that's definitely that's been a significant portion of what we've been doing is disseminating the information provided by Alberta Health Services and the provincial government, as well as making that information accessible to as many populations within the MD as well. So we're definitely on top of that. As information changes, well, the information we're providing through our mediums will also change. So we are trying to do our best to follow the lead of that information. And again, I know I sound like a broken record, but by actually closing gathering places and facilities that we can control, that should be contributing to assist in that regard. And that is the item on the next agenda item as well.
I don't know if I've been passing on the stuff from FCSS or not, but they have been working with the LGM community as well as with the Hutterite colonies within the municipality and within Lethbridge County, emphasizing the need to for social distancing and sanitization and et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know, have I sent those on, John? Have you seen those ones? You've seen them? Okay, then you're getting the information that I've been receiving. So we'll do our best to keep everyone up to date as to what's happening, and I think the MD and the County of Lethbridge FCSS have been doing a good job in trying to get the information out there for everybody to follow it. Now it's just a matter of getting people to follow it, and we can do our part here, keeping to use the word flatten the curve, the number of cases that we're going to see. Anything else on state of local emergency? Any final words, Brian?
Not
Okay, I'm having a hard time understanding it there. Again, if you're not speaking, please mute your phone. All right, nothing else there. We'll go on to number 9, request for decision on bylaw, outdoor recreation areas. Arlos, you want to speak to this?
Sure, I can speak to it. I've referenced it probably a few times already this council meeting. We're looking to have the authority to, through resolution of council, to be able to make these decisions in accordance with the response, the provincial government response. We've already talked about the reasons why up to this point in terms of mass gathering restrictions that are currently in place. So it's pretty straightforward scenario.
Okay, just thinking, Murray, what's Enchamp Park going to do? Are they going to open, close? What about, and then we need to also discuss, I mean, the Forks areas. Do we just post that it's closed, or how do we physically close that one? Any comments or thoughts?
So our bylaw requires that we make sure that there's signage indicating it's closed, and we will do what we can to barrier access to these parks. We already have legislation actually in place that deals with the MD parks and recreation areas.
Okay. Tamara?
So I just have open the albertaparks.ca, and they're saying everything, Alberta parks are open, but facilities including toilets, picnic shelters, warm-up huts, playgrounds, and winter camping are closed. So I just wanted to confirm what we're going to do, but also there was lots of reports back from provincial and federal parks on Monday that people left garbage, and there was actually human waste that was also left. And, you know, the concern of not having, you know, what are people going to do at the park versus not having, and I'm not sure how to address it. I just bring it up as a concern because we do want people outside. We don't want mass gatherings, but I don't want human waste in every bush either.
That's Murray here. On the Enchamp Park, we're just waiting to see what the MD does and what the government tells us we're supposed to do. So if the MD parks are going to be closed, we will be too. So.
Okay, staff perspective, Jason?
Certainly, I know our list and I have talked a fair bit about this. Right now, not as tremendous concern. I agree with what Tamara says. Being outdoors is much better than being stuck inside. But that being said, depending on the length of this and what happens government-wise, whether they're provincial or federal, they may mandate what we and Trump anyways, but I'd like to see a park too as long as possible, but we all know that park in the River Bottom is a very busy place as it starts to push through into the middle of May and into the May long weekend, and that will need to be, if we're still at this point in our lives, that will need to be addressed by administration. So a lot of our other spots, the Forks, we have no way of
closing gates. There's no gates there. I don't know how we can physically police that area and manage it, but the other areas that we do have the ability to, we certainly need to be mindful of that according to the provincial regulations that they've given us. So.
When does the MD Park normally, on a usual year, when does it usually open? Right away, or wait till the long weekend, or what's usual?
We normally open the gate down there below in the camping area right around the beginning of April, depending on the weather. This year it's going to be later because we rearranged our contracts with our people down there, our managers. So it'll be April 15th, which is just right around Easter time. So there's still lots of families. If any of you have drove through there the last few days, have nice weather, it's still been a busy place the last few days, as families are needing somewhere to get out of the house. So,
John?
So if we're talking park closure, would you then be closing the gates up top so people wouldn't be able to use it the way they've currently been using it? Is that what we're talking about here?
That's what I would certainly do, knowing that closing the gates and keep people out because they'll park their car there and walk down. But, and we have all these walking trails now that access the park. So, that being said, it was still the majority of the people understand that this morning or probably at the end of the workday yesterday, the town two were closed their playground areas. Equipment. So it's going to need somewhere to go, and I don't know how to manage this the best way, but like I said, the province has given us rules and regulations to follow.
So just perhaps this helps answer the question as well for Councillor Takeido, but the way this suggested motion, and it is a suggested recommendation, is that it would provide flexibility to be able to deal with the fluid situation as per essentially government restriction of the day, right? Because things are changing so quickly. So really that's what we're looking at, whether that means closing the gates at the top or whether it means restricting camping, or whether it means something different. It kind of depends on the scenario
situation
of the day.
Yeah. Well, the way the suggested recommendation is to open or close the parks in accordance with what the government's doing in their restrictions. And I think that's, like I said, we could say close them and nothing ever happens, and we open them and then they suggest we close them because it's getting more widespread or whatever. It gives you guys the authority to do it. Any more thoughts or comments out there? All right. Hearing no other comments.
I guess I have a few. Meryl, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yep, I can hear you.
Here. I guess I got a few comments. I know I guess ideally we could just disappear here right away and we can continue on as life is normal, but I think giving administration the ability to close it when, depending on what the province decides in public health, like on what's allowed and what isn't allowed, because right now the province has closed all their recreation areas, right? Like, you'd hate to be the epicenter of a breakout. Because ideally, it'd be nice to have, I don't know if it's possible, but it's still early, but if you let people still camp, but if they knew they couldn't use any other facilities there, like the washroom facilities or anything like that, they're campers, that's what they could use, but I don't know if that's even an option, but I know it's pretty early for that yet too, for how this whole thing is going to play out.
Yep. Any further comments?
again, I just go back to the road ban, as long as council's made aware, and I'd like that motion and then just include it just for the 2020 season.
Yeah, that can be amended or added into it. Any further comments, anybody? Murray Levitt, or Murray, Jennifer, Brian?
And right here, I think we have to just go by what the province tells us. To me, it's no different than the fire ban. If the province says there's a fire ban on, there's a fire ban on. Whatever we do in municipality should coincide with what the province is telling us. So that's all for me.
Yeah, and I think that's what's in this request for decision is basically it'll be open until we're told that it needs to be closed, and then the administration has the authority to do it. That's what they're looking for, I believe, right, Arlos, basically. So somebody willing to give us a motion one way or the other on that recommendation? It's sure quiet.
This is Jennifer. I would make the recommendation.
Go ahead.
So I would make the recommendation that council allow admin to close and open parks and outdoor rec areas in the municipality wide. It's directed by the government. And if council could be notified of any closures or openings.
And for the 2020 year only, or do you want it?
I don't want to keep that in there because I'm going with the recommendation on what it says in restrictions in response to COVID-19. So my motion would be the recommendation on the request for decision with the inclusion of communication with council.
Okay. Hopefully we're not still here next year with more COVID-19 still, but okay. Jennifer's given us a motion following the recommendation that's outlined and adding in that council be notified of any decisions. Is that correct, Jennifer?
Just that we can be communicated with of closures and openings, just so we're in the know.
Okay. Any further discussion from anybody? We'll go around the table again. John?
In favor.
Jennifer? In favor. Brian?
In favor, I think.
Murray?
In favor.
Levitt?
In favor.
Tamara is nodding. Merrill in favor. Carried. All right. Next is capital purchase of a grader. Carlos, Stewart, who's going to speak to it?
It's just a typical purchase coming forward. It has already been approved in the budget, so it's, I guess, here for reapproval. Approval of the approval.
And
The only change, if I can speak,
you may.
Given the change of the situation of our dollar since I wrote this RFD, I would like to change my recommendation if I can to accept the proposal as opposed to purchasing the grader through the Sourcewell program. A week ago when I wrote it, it wasn't a big deal.
Stu, can you provide a little more detail as to what you mean by accept the proposal? Versus, are you just saying
so
remove the Sourcewell out of the motion?
Right.
Just summarize that briefly, please.
Okay. So, given I sent out proposals to both John Deere and Cat Brandt and Finning on this, and they sent their proposals back. We opened them on March 6th. At the time, what I wanted to go through was a bit of an exercise with the Sourcewell program to demonstrate to everybody that the price will be the same to go through Sourcewell as well. However, given the recent changes in our economy and our dollar, I think we just purchase as per the proposal that Finning put forward instead of going through the Sourcewell program. Does that make sense?
So Stu, is what you're saying is with Sourcewell, the price you would get now would be based upon the dollar and it's where it's at now, as opposed to when you got your quote from the other two prior to the change in the dollar. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. Yeah, like initially the dollar was good goodish, and there was no concern with it. But now, given the change in the dollar, it may open us up to have that price go up a little bit. So I think we just accept the proposal as they presented it.
Okay. Any further discussion? So, am I getting that through Sourcewell is more expensive now? Is that what, because of the change in the dollar, so it's better just to do?
I didn't verify it today, but that would be my assumption, is that because of the dollar, we look for a price today, it'll probably be different than it was 3 weeks ago.
Right, and if you say today you're going to buy it, the dollar becomes fixed, it's not going to be on a delivery date that you're going to have to pay the exchange, or is it going to be fixed today?
It'll be fixed as per the proposal.
Okay.
So that their quote's good for 30 days or 45 days that we have. So the proposal is good for 45 days. So the dollar changes don't affect us based on.
Okay. So just a quick question, and I don't need to answer it if you can't. In your RFD here, the proposed price is well under budget. Is that how seriously has that changed? Are you still on budget or under budget with the way the dollar's changed up to today?
We'll still be well within budget. We had 600 in the budget, and both machines came in just over 500. So
okay,
500 and change.
Okay. John?
I was just going to give you a motion that council approve the capital purchase of the Caterpillar 150 grader as per approved 2020 capital budget, and just skipping the through Sourcewell part, leaving that out.
Okay.
I guess as approved 2020 capital budget through the proposed pricing, I guess.
Okay. Any discussion out there, guys? Brian, are you able to hear any better?
Yeah, it's getting messed around. Just carry on.
Okay. Yeah, we're struggling hearing you too. He says he gets you and you just fine, but he can't understand me. Okay, John's give us a motion that council approve the capital purchase as per the approved 2020 budget. All in favor, John is. Jennifer?
Yes, in favor.
Brian?
In favor.
Murray?
In favor.
Levitt?
In favor.
Tamara's got her hand up here. Merrill's in favor. Carried. All right, RFD, draft financial statements and reserve allocations. Brian Badura. Do you want to?
Thank you, Reed Harris.
Do you want to walk us
Yeah,
through?
go ahead, Reed Harris.
Do you want to walk us through these? Show us the highlights, what we need to see, any questions that council might have? If you want to just walk us through these a little bit. Brian.
Yes. Yes, I thought if I had just around 5 minutes or less than 5 minutes, I'd just go through the draft financial statements, sort of page by page, not really highlighting much on it. But if there's questions or if I'm breaking up to anyone, please interrupt and we'll try to make sure everyone can hear.
Brian, can we have you stop for just a minute? I don't know if we can change the audio somehow. It's on our end. It's just really choppy here. I don't know what we can do to change that, but can't hardly understand you.
Okay. I'm not sure what I should do. I should call in again.
Yeah, go ahead, Arlos.
Just, I would carry on, Brian. It seems to be okay at the moment. That being said, I mean, Brian, the majority of Brian's report is actually in his report. It would probably be worth emphasizing the reserve allocations, simply because the financial statements will be presented, I believe, at a council meeting in April by the auditor. These are just the draft financial statements.
So do you want to go to that statement then, the reserve allocations?
Yes. So if we want to skip to, I believe it's Schedule B at the very end.
Okay, just which page is that on, Brian?
Okay, at the very end of the notes to the financial statements, there's 2 pages of the reserve schedule, operating and capital.
Okay.
Okay, so these we got them up on screen. So these reserve transfers have been included in the financial statements. They were in accordance with the budget. What we normally do is the transfers to reserve are based on the surplus cash we expect for the year, which came in very close to those amounts. And the transfers from reserve are the actual net capital expenditures from each of the different capital categories. This year, our capital expenditures net came to $1,377,869. So the proposal is to just get approval of these reserve transfer to and from reserve transfers.
Okay.
And at the end of December 31st, 2019, we'll have $17,018,190 in reserves. And this is reflected in the cash on the balance sheet. We have on the consolidated statement financial position, $22,677,696 in cash and temporary investments. And those amounts, am I still breaking up, Reed Harris?
No, that's better, much better. I don't know what changed, but it's much better.
Okay, I just had a text that came in that said I was breaking up and try calling in, but if it's better, that's good.
I think everybody in this room is okay now.
Okay, so we've, after the reserve transfers in 2019, we'll have just over 17 million in reserves, and this is reflected in the cash and temporary investments of 22,677,969. And if we take into account the deferred revenue, which is grant revenues we have in our account from other levels of governments of just under $5 million. We have nearly all the funds, liquid funds, I should say, the cash in reserves or amounts that are deferred grants from other levels of governments.
Okay. So, Brian, I'm just looking at the capital reserve schedule, and you start with a balance on January 1st, 19, and then transfers to and from and proposed transfers, and then the balance December 31. I'm guessing that should be December 31, 19.
Yes, that's correct. I noticed that should be December 31, 19.
And then
the same is on the top of the operating.
Right. You just carry that across, and the balance on the far right side of the page should be balance December 31, 2020.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I was just trying to figure why we went back a year and then forward a year, but that's okay. Now, just explain to us a little bit more the purpose of the reserves and what function they serve the municipality. Is that a fair question?
So the reserves.
Go ahead.
So the reserves are just earmarking the surplus cash of the municipality for future use, and these amounts can be moved to and from the operating capital reserves with motions of council.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Brian on the allocation of reserves? Anything else in the draft financial statements that we should be aware of, Arlos or Brian? The auditor will come and present it at some point in the future, is that correct?
Correct. Sorry, the only difference you'll see from, one primary difference you'll see from these draft financial statements to the ones that will be presented for approval is that of adding additional notes as it relates to COVID-19. So that is something that everybody will be adding with regard to potential liabilities that will arise and need to be recognized as a result of the COVID-19 scenario. So that will be added
somewhere in there
to the financial statements.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what kind of liabilities would we be looking at?
I think they're just more comments. Well, I'll defer to Brian to respond in more detail there. Brian Badura.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Arlis. The notes are more disclosure. We're not expecting any liability disclosure. Just to inform the public that there could possibly be some material effect in the future based on this the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay.
As per the RFD.
Right. I should always look there. Okay, anything else? Any other questions from council on the financial statements or things that should be brought out from administration on the financial statements? Okay. We have a motion, a recommended motion. Anybody prepared to make a motion on the financial statements?
Through the chair, can I just make one more comment? We are not looking for approval of the draft financial statements. At this point, they're just to be received for information.
For information, yeah, accept them for information.
But we are looking for approval with regard to the reserve allocations.
Okay.
They're presented in one.
I'll make a motion as recommended by council. The council accepts the draft financial statement from them December 31st for information and approve the 2019-2020 capital and operating reserve allocations, including Schedule B.
Okay, that was really choppy, but I think we understood what you were saying. Any further discussion from anyone on the proposed motion? If not, we'll do the roll call again. John? Jennifer made the motion. Brian?
Okay.
Murray?
Good, I'm good.
Levitt? Tamers? Merrill? Carried. All right, next one is Silverleaf Resources. Brian or Arlos?
Yes, this just was had been prepared as a point of regular business. Obviously, this falls within the realm of council's authorities and not administration, so it's being brought to you for consideration.
Okay, I understand this company has newly acquired some roll numbers and were unaware that the taxes weren't paid. Is that correct? And when they were notified, they paid the taxes, but don't want to pay the penalties associated with it. Thoughts around the table? John?
I think we should, I'm in favor of this. We have, I guess, an oil and gas company that's willing to pay their taxes.
Anybody else around the table want to comment on that? Okay, hearing none.
I'll give you the motion to accept the proposal as it's in front of us, the recommendation.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion to, I guess it isn't a recommendation, so I would recommend that we discount the penalties. We've done this in the past, not just for oil and gas companies, for other companies as well, due to clerical issues or whatever else. So I think this is they're willing to pay some taxes that was owing on this land before they purchased it. So I think it's only fair that we give them the opportunity to not have to pay the penalties. Or alternative one.
Okay, so the way I understand it, John's made a motion for alternative one, that MD cancels a 5% penalty for taxes remaining unpaid on November 16th and the 12% penalty for taxes remaining unpaid on January 1st in the amount of $1,013.85. Any more discussion? Anybody want to make any comments before we vote? All right, we'll go around the table. Jennifer?
Not in favor.
Brian?
In favor.
Murray?
In favor.
Levitt?
In favor.
Tamara?
In favor.
Merrill opposed. It's carried. Thank you. Vauxhall Ag Society. Carlos, have you got a...
So with regard to Vauxhall Ag Society RFD, they are quite simply asking for a letter of support from the MD of Tabor with regard to their project. for some facility renovations.
Okay, so they are applying to Farm Credit Canada for a grant to help renovate the community center, Vauxhall Community Hall kitchen. They need a municipality to support their application, so this is a letter to the municipality asking for that support. Thoughts around the table? Anybody want to comment on that? Levitt?
This has been,
Go ahead.
I think this has been a project that the Ag Society has been trying to partner on for quite some time. And the reason that it's before you and not before Vauxhall Town Council is because it needs to be a rural municipality that needs to be given a letter of support.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts on supporting this or not supporting it?
I see no issue. It's always good. All we have to really do is send a letter in for support to get a grant. So I'd be willing to make that motion.
Okay, Levitt's given us a motion to provide a letter of support to the Vauxhall Ag Society for their Farm Credit Canada grant application for renovation and upgrading the Vauxhall Community Hall kitchen. John, around the table?
In favor.
Jennifer?
In favor.
Brian? Murray?
In favor.
Levitt?
In favor.
Tamara?
In favor.
Merrill, in favor, carried. Okay. There was no consent agenda items brought out. Council request.
Meryl, just one.
Yep.
Just one point of order. We had an addition of 8.6 council committees. We missed that. I know we did talk about it when we talked about our meeting. So.
Is there any, I kind of moved it up to the other events and memos. Is there anything anybody else wants to talk about outside committees? Like I said, all of mine have been canceled, and I think most other ones have too, but is there any more comment on that, Tamara? I know we...
So, and just as a note, quite a few of my committees, though, are still having regular phone meetings just because the board and their executive directors need some support.
Excuse me. Anything else, Jennifer?
No, I just wanted to make sure that we noted that it was moved up into, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other requests for information or anything from staff? We don't have any closed session items. I'd again just thank staff for doing all that they can to keep the MD moving when they're working from home and under the circumstances that we're in right now, but your hard work is appreciated and doesn't go unnoticed. Anybody else have anything like to say? If not, I see John's hand just go up for adjournment. Meeting adjourned.